Here I am just talking away, make sure everything's ready, and it's 1:45 already.
It's okay.
Ah, all right, wonderful. Well, welcome everybody. My name is Shae Sterrett. Welcome to Start Strong 2021, day 4. So excited to kick things off today with a friend, colleague, peer of mine, Molly McMillan. She is an occupational therapist. She's a shamanic practitioner, and she's been practicing this healing art since 1988. And she has this practice called Power Retrieval, and she's going to tell you so much more about it throughout this workshop. And this is something that she does retreats for and workshops with. So if you're interested, I hope she's going to give you some details at the end, because I think she has something coming up in April that you might be interested in. So I just want to welcome her here to Start Strong. Welcome all of you, whether you're logged into Zoom with us or watching on Facebook. We're so happy to have you here in community with us. I do want to remind you that this is being recorded. So if you don't want to show up on a website or a YouTube channel somewhere, please turn off your audio and your video. And then I will be happy to pass this on to Molly so she can take it over and talk to you about finding that true power within you with Power Retrieval. So welcome, Molly.
Oh, thank you. Am I on now?
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing and I will make you a co-host, and then I will spotlight you for everybody. There you go. Welcome,
Okay.
Molly.
Hi everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad to be here with all of you on this beautiful day outside. I have a question, Shae. So if someone who's watching on Facebook Live asks a question, can you see it and read it to me?
Yep, I'm watching on Facebook while this is happening.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Because I certainly am the kind of presenter that enjoys the interaction with people who are participating. So feel free to ask questions. I think what would be best is for us to have time frames within which I can answer the questions rather than having them come throughout the whole presentation. So
yeah, we could
what I'll
leave
probably do is just every once in a while take a break and see if there are questions, and then continue.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, so great. Yes, I'm hoping to do another Power Retrieval Workshop. It is a retreat experience now. I started this process, wow, it's been 14 years. I was pregnant with my child at the time. And at the time, it was a 3-hour experience, and now it's grown into a weekend-long retreat, starting on a Friday night at 7 and ending on a Sunday at 1 o'clock. The next one is planned in New Jersey, but with COVID, it's still a little up in the air about whether it's going to happen. I hope so. If not, the next one would probably be more like in the summer or in the fall. But I do them about twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year, and it's a weekend-long experience. So, well, let me tell you a little bit about the work that I do and how I came to create this powerful workshop. I am an occupational therapist, and I specialize in a technique called myofascial release. I study with a man named John Barnes. He's a physical therapist, and I focus with his approach. I'm an expert in his technique, and I use it with clients. I've used it for the last over 30 years, and I've used it on probably hundreds of people at this point with a wide variety of conditions, diagnoses, problems, and help them successfully. We all have fascia, and we all have restrictions within our fascial system. And I love doing this work. It's hands-on, it's artistic, it's scientific. It gives me an opportunity to use both sides of my brain. And I also teach the work that I do. So if you're a practitioner and you're interested in learning this work, there are some workshops coming up around the New England area. I teach for my teacher as well. So the fascial system, let me just tell you about your fascial system if you don't already know. It's becoming more widely understood that we have this fabric in our bodies. It's literally a web of fabric that starts at the top of our heads and goes all the way down to the tips of our toes. It's attached to the underside of the skin, and then it cradles and supports every part of our body, all of our organs, our blood vessels, our nerves, our bones are all supported by this fascial system. It's connective tissue, and it's something that is there for us to support us, to provide us with ease from motion. Um, it is also the communicating network for our energetic or spiritual system is through the fascial system. It's important because it surrounds every part of the body and every cell of the body, all the way down to the cellular matrix. It's important for that flow of information between cells, the communication between cells. It's important for metabolizing what we need to metabolize in our body. It's important for nutrition to come in and toxins to flow out. So when there are tightnesses or restrictions in the fascial system, it can create all kinds of problems, which is why it's so effective for so many different kinds of problems. So we all have this beautiful fascia that we're born into the world with. Well, at least in utero. But let me just say that even in utero, if you as the mother have some imbalances in your pelvis, you might already have, your baby might already have some imbalances even before they're born. So, and then the birthing process can also create some restrictions because the fascial system becomes restricted through pressure or tension, whether it's an injury, that comes from outside of you. Let me just move forward beyond the baby stage to other things that are more concrete. So if you have a fall and you have an injury, that's an acute injury. Your fascial system will rush in and try to lay down extra fibers to support whatever that injury is. I'm rubbing my wrist because I broke my wrist 6 years ago, and I had that experience of my fascia laying down extra fibers to support me. And then ideally over time, it softens and it lets go so that you can begin moving, because those kinds of laying down of extra fibers create a tightness, a decreased range of motion, pain. The fascial system actually has more pain receptors and more receptors for movement and position in space than the muscle does. So it's very sensitive and more difficult to heal over time. And so that's one way to get a fascial restriction is through an acute injury. Let me just back up and say, if that restriction isn't softened back down so that it can become more healthy fascia is gelatinous-like in consistency. It feels like you have lycra on. You can move. It's supportive, but you can move. When you have a restriction, it's more like a hard place or like a cast there. And then over time, because it's connected, just like fabric is all connected, it begins pulling on other parts of your body. So let's say I have this wrist injury and I wasn't able to get that fascia to become healthy again. Over time, that might pull up into my shoulder. And then 4 or 5 years down the road, I'm having shoulder pain. And I'm thinking, I don't know what happened to my shoulder, but my shoulder hurts. And not realizing that it actually came from all the way down here 5 to 6 years ago. So other ways we can develop fascial restrictions are through surgery. Scars are definitely fascial restrictions. If we have inflammation in our bodies, especially chronic inflammation, that can harden over time and become restricted. Our internal stress or pressure from the inside can create fascial restrictions, because we tend to, when we have stress, have these positions in space, and our fascia over time notices that. Our fascia is there to support us and help us with whatever we want to do. It's not like our moms who tell us to stand up straight and don't do this or don't do that. The fascia is like, okay, you want to sit like this? I'm going to help you, and I'm going to lay down these extra fibers and support you so that you can be like this as much as you want to, which is fine if you're in this position. But then when you try to move out of it, there's this sense of, oh, that's so tight and so hard, and it's hard to move. So over time, we all have these pockets of restriction that develop based on our own history of movement, our own biology, our genetic makeup, our own level of stress over time. So we all actually have our own unique fascial fabric.
And,
which I
and
find
Molly,
fascinating. Everyone is different. One of the things I love about this work is everybody presents with a different fascial fabric.
and Molly, I
So
know you were saying that this
over
shift.
time, as we have these restrictions build, then we're more likely to have injury. So if our body is already layered with tightness, then as we continue moving through space and doing things, we're more likely to create a situation where we become injured. And when I started this work, that's what happened to me. I began doing triathletes and asking my body to perform at a much higher level. And my body was responding by saying, oh no, you've got some restrictions there. This is not going to work. You're going to have some pain. And it was because this work that I do now helped me out of that pain in a way that nothing else was able to help me. I tried physical therapy, I tried massage therapy, I tried chiropractic, and nothing was able to help me. And I went to my first class in myofascial release, and my teacher and some of his assistants, it was a demonstration person, and they treated me. And after that 15-20 minute experience, I had no pain at all. I thought, this is for me. I've got to learn this work. So that's what started me on this path of working with the fascial system and teaching people and practitioners how important it is. And the other thing is with this work, to connect it to now the shamanic practice, which I started after I started my myofascial release work. I noticed that when I was doing the myofascial release work, and all myofascial release practitioners who do John Barnes work have had this experience, I'm sure, there's often emotional release that happens. There's a connection to a time and a place when there was trauma, perhaps. And so when you're working with the fascial system, it holds all of that information in there. And at the time of injury or trauma, so that when you release that restriction physically, then all of the other information has a chance to come up and out. The emotions that you weren't able to feel at the time of your injury or trauma, the belief systems that you had at the time of your injury or trauma, any energy that left your body at that time has an opportunity to come back in. And so, let's say, for example, if you were in a car accident and as you could see the car was about to hit you from behind, and you had this moment in time where you thought, I'm going to die. And then bam, the car hits you, you have whiplash, and you have this physical injury, and you're on hyper alert because you are thinking you're dead. You still don't, you have this belief system that you haven't survived yet. So it's an opportunity for your body then and your being to take in the reality of the fact that you've survived, and your belief system can change from one of feeling like you haven't survived to then surviving. So when I learned shamanism, I discovered how much it relates to what I was already doing. I was already experiencing these kinds of soul retrievals that were happening simultaneously with the work that I was already doing with the fascial system. So when I stumbled upon shamanism in New York City, when I was living in New York City at a shamanic circle that I attended, and I thought, wow, this is the work, this soul retrieval work that we're doing is so like what I'm already doing, but more in a different way. So I'm not sure how many people are familiar with shamanic practice. So I'll dive right into that too, just in case you're not. But shamanism is the oldest form of healing. It's the most ancient healing art on the planet, and it's all indigenous cultures can trace roots back to shamanic practice, um, shamanic spirituality. It was a framework that a lot of the indigenous, if not all of them, indigenous cultures used as a way to perceive reality amongst themselves, amongst the other beings on the planet and other beings in other realities around them. So it's one of the reasons I like it so much, is that we all have this in our roots, in our DNA, this connection back to shamanic practice. The word shaman actually comes from Siberia, and it's a word that means one who sees in the dark. So the kind of defining factor of shamanism versus other kinds of healing work or work in general is that with shamanism, we're going on a journey into extraordinary reality, the reality that's all around us, but it's extraordinary. And we're going with the intention of finding information, making connections, bringing healing energy back to this reality. That's in a nutshell what shamanic work is, or a shamanic journey is like. And so it is a spiritual practice, or an energetic practice. I don't consider it religious. I do consider it spiritual, though. So it is a way of connecting to spirit and the energy around me. So soul retrieval, which is what I specialize in, I wound up following that path, is a way of bringing back a soul part that's been lost over time. So similar to what might happen when you have a fascial restriction, soul loss also comes from trauma, from an experience of trauma, whether it's big or small. And because we're all different, we all have our own ability to withstand trauma. So for some people, a small trauma might be very big, and vice versa. For other people, a larger trauma that you would think was very devastating might not be, because they have more resources to support them and get through that trauma. So when we have an experience like, let's say, the car accident that I mentioned before, and we're in this car accident, we all have to leave our bodies or disassociate to survive a traumatic experience. So there's that moment of disbelief or disassociation that happens. And then ideally, over time, that information that's left, or that part of you, that energy that's left, comes back in. And in an ideal world, in a very healthy ideal world where we have support for this, that's what would happen. But of course, that's not usually what happens. What usually happens is there's a part of us that it leaves, and it just decides, you know what, I don't really like being there. It's not really fun, and it's not safe, and I think I'm just going to stay out here. Thank you very much. and so in psychological terms, that is called disassociation. In shamanic terms, it's called soul loss. And these soul parts, we all have soul loss that's happened over time. And these soul parts go to a place that they can be retrieved and brought back to us. So that's what we do when we do soul retrieval work. And soul loss comes from these traumatic injuries, and ways, or symptoms, I should say, of soul loss are things like pain, illness, fatigue, depression, ways that we know that we might have soul loss, or some of these problems or conditions. I worked with a woman once who was very clumsy and tripping a lot, but she hadn't been all of her life. It was a new experience. So when you're feeling out of balance, not feeling in your body, feeling a sense of not belonging, all of those things are symptoms of soul loss. So power retrieval, I call it power retrieval. It is essentially, as a shamanic practitioner, I go on the journey for clients to help to bring back these soul parts for them on their behalf. And that's a very powerful experience. And when I do the power retrieval workshop, I'm guiding everyone into retrieving their own soul parts. It's a very supported, structured journey over the course of the weekend with different. I use the myofascial movement, and then I use the shamanic journeying and other experiences to help bring back in those soul parts. So that's the power retrieval workshop in its essence, is bringing back those soul parts, or power parts. So when I think of power, I'm not sure what your idea of power is, but to me, power is feeling full in your body, feeling like you're at home where you are in your body, and wherever you are, you feel like you're at home. When you have all of your energy with you, your power, you can also think of power as soul, chi, essence, prana. It's all the same thing. You are adaptable. It's the idea that doesn't mean that bad things aren't going to happen. What it does mean, though, is that when they do happen, you'll be more capable of handling them. you'll feel the sense of it's going to be okay. No matter what, I'm going to get through this and I'm going to be okay. Um, it's a way of looking at the world with curiosity and compassion and wonderment and other people around you, being able to relate to people from this place of curiosity and compassion rather than judgment and criticism. So it's not about having more money than other people or being better than other people or successful in that way that a lot of Westerners do. It's about having this flexibility within your being, this ability to withstand and the resources to handle whatever comes your way and whatever you choose to do. That's what I think of as power. Ah, that was a mouthful. So I want to stop for a moment and see if anyone has any questions so far. You can ask them in the chat. That's probably the best way. Or Shae can let me know if you're on Facebook and you have a question.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's as much a question as it is just a comment. I love how you began talking about acute trauma, but then also the importance of more like energetic or emotional trauma that can also take place. One of the things that I've studied in my yoga therapy programs is the work of Basil van der Kolk, and he talks about how our issues are stored in our tissues, and it's not always acute trauma. So I love how you brought that up. Because that does create the same kind of tension in the body, even though you may not have had like a physical activity. So I love that you brought that up.
Yes. Any other questions or thoughts?
I'm just seeing a lot of enthusiasm on Facebook about everything you've talked about so far.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. I'm glad. I'll push on, but please don't hesitate. Sometimes I like to make sure that who's listening is kind of getting the concepts before I push on. All right.
Yeah, I think you're good.
All right. Great. All right. So I gave you a lot of information about this, and I'm someone who tends to be much more experiential. I like to take people through experiences to feel the concepts that I'm explaining. I'm all about that. I'm a much more experiential, sensory person than I am an intellectual person. So what I want to do first is take you through some work with your fascial system. So I'm going to actually move my camera away so I can stand and you can see me in standing. And I invite all of you to also stand up. And it is helpful if you can see yourself. It's one of the great things about Zoom is that you can see yourself on the screen, because I want us to take a look at our bodies and as a way of looking at our fascial system. So give me a moment. Okay. Hopefully you can all still hear me okay way back here.
Yep.
So take a moment and stand. Find your place. Find your place on the earth. The earth is under whatever the surface is that you're standing on. Pedal your feet a little bit so that you're landing just where you normally would. I want you to not fix your posture. All of us, when we look at ourselves, we're like, let me fix that. So what we want to do is really see what's there. See where we are today. How is our fascial system presenting itself right now in this moment? It is helpful to have a little bit of a wider base of support than you normally would, but not absolutely necessary. So as you stand, I want you to breathe and allow your body to really settle down into the surface that you're on so that you can feel your body and take a look. Take a look at the image on the screen and notice any imbalances. That's how we see where our fascial fabric has become tight and restricted. and where it's pulling us out of alignment and maybe causing problems that we don't even realize we're having quite yet. Sometimes we don't know for, a couple of years down the road. So as I'm standing here, let me just share with you that I broke my ankle. It was 8 weeks ago yesterday, and I just got my cam boot off. So that's the first thing I'm noticing, is that my left ankle is talking to me and saying, yeah, you've been doing a lot of standing and walking between yesterday and today, and I'm a little pain, I'm feeling pain. I'm noticing some tightness in my left arm and shoulder. I feel my low back is a little bit crunched up. So I'm going to let you now take a moment and feel into your own bodies and look at yourselves and just notice what you see, notice what you feel. Remember to do it without judgment. This is coming from that place of witnessing and accepting as much as you can. So it's the idea that, oh, this is where I am right now. It doesn't mean you're going to be here later or tomorrow. It just means this is where you are right now. As I look at my body, I see that my left arm is hanging further away from my body than my right. My right hand is touching my leg, my left hand isn't. So that's an interesting difference that I'm noting, that I'm realizing is new for me. I think it's because of I had a cast on for a while and a cam boot, and if I shift my weight onto my left, it takes that whole thing away. So that validates my thought about that. Okay. And now I invite you to do a little more work on grounding yourself where you are. So let's put our attention into our feet and feel those 4 points that they talk about in yoga practice of your feet, your heels, the right and left side of your heels, the balls of your feet, just under your big toe pad, and then just under your little toe pad. And just feel those points really settling down into the floor. And now as you breathe in, see if you can feel your breath all the way around your body. We're not going to force it. We're just going to notice what our breath feels like as we try to inhale through the whole trunk. And as you breathe out, see if you can let go of any muscles you don't need to hold yourself upright. As you do this, you might notice your body shifting into a different position in space, one that you are that's more likely where your fascial fabric is right now. Because as we let go of the tension of trying to hold our bodies upright, we might notice that our bodies are wanting to go into these other places. Now, another way to feel into your fascial fabric is to move. So I invite you to reach up with your arms and telescope your hands away from your body so that you can feel down the sides of your body and down the front and back of your body. And just notice any pulling, any places where your body feels like it's being pulled. And then I invite you to now tip your body over and make a C without twisting. It's okay if you don't go far. It's not about how far you go. It's about how you feel into your fabric. We'll go over one way. And then we'll go over another way. Notice if one way is easier for you than the other. Notice if you put more weight into one foot than the other. Great. And if anything that I ask you to do causes you pain, just don't do it. Just stop. This is not about pushing yourself. So please don't do anything that's painful. So now I want you to, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, I'll turn, but I want you to arch back as far as you can go comfortably. Notice what that feels like down the front of your body, and then fall forward. Again, as far as you can go comfortably. Awesome. Take your time. I went a little fast. Good. So now you've felt into your fascial fabric and how it's presenting for you today. We're going to work now with that fascial fabric and see if we can get it to let go of some of those restrictions that you felt. And this is a technique you can do called rebounding, and it's actually working with the fluid element of the fascia. Our bodies are over 80% water. There's a lot of fluid, and when our fascial system is healthy, it is this gelatinous fluid-like consistency. And when it's restricted, it becomes dry and hard. So the goal is always to become more fluid-like. So I'm going to talk you through this exercise and invite you to try to release some of those restrictions that you felt. So coming back to that nice wide base of support standing, feeling your feet ground down into the floor and into the earth. I want you to listen to me first and watch me do this before you do. In order to create this, we're going to create a wave of motion through our fascial system. And in order to create this wave, it means that we're going to have to bend our knees and straighten them. And it's really important that you use as little activation as possible. It's more about creating that motion and then going along for the ride. Kind of like when you're swimming. You kick a little and your body whoosh a lot further. So just a little bit of motion and letting our body go along for the ride. I'm really happy that my ankle is letting me do this. I wasn't sure it would. Yay! If it bothers you at all in your knees, ankles, hips, you can sit down to do this. I actually have a ball that I was going to sit on if I needed to do this. If you want to sit down, you can always, in a chair, you can do it with your shoulders instead of your legs. Okay, so go ahead and give that a try. Allow your knees to bend and straighten them. And you'll already feel, okay, that's either easy or that's really hard to do. So what I invite you to do now is find that rhythm that is just right for you, meaning you might need to move a little faster or a little slower to tune into that rhythm of your fascial system. So when you find that rhythm that you're in right now, it feels easy, like you could just do it all day and it would be fun and easy to do. So as you bend your knees and you allow them, you allow your knees to bend and you straighten them, you're really just letting the rest of your body go along for the ride. So it's not about me trying to dance, not right now. It's about me trying to feel that fluid movement. I'm going to turn on some music because I find that helps us tap into that sense of motion and movement. And we're going to do this for one song, and then we'll check back in. So let me turn the song on. You can watch me to get some ideas, but it's really important that you feel into your own bodies and what your body needs right now. that rhythm, I invite you to put that fluid into those places that are tight. So I'm consciously now trying to get that motion, that wave into my back. Nice work, everyone. Beautiful. And I know not everyone has that kind of fast-paced motion like I do. Sometimes it's very small and subtle. So now come back to that standing place and feel into your bodies again. And notice if it's different. Notice if those tight places feel, hopefully they feel more open, softer, less painful. I'm noticing my hand is laying down on my leg more. My back feels buzzy. A lot of times this technique causes your body to feel vibration and a kind of buzziness and a kind of openness. Okay, let's sit back down. One of the things I discovered when I started my shamanic soul retrieval work is that if I had worked with a client already with myofascial release and opened up their fascial system, which is really the energetic communication in our bodies, then when I did the soul retrieval work, there was an open system within which that soul part was welcomed, and it was more effective and more profound for those clients. So that's what led me to, and I also found that, you know, in our modern day and age, there's, you know, less trust, as probably should be, for practitioners. And so I wanted to be able to teach people how to do this for themselves. It is very profound to have someone do it on your behalf, but if you don't know them and you're not sure about them, I found that nowadays we all like to find our own way and be our own advocate in our own healing. So that's why I created this Power Retrieval Workshop. What I'd like to do now is, how much time do I have? Okay, good. I do have time.
You have time. Yep.
First, are there any questions about that experience before I move on to leading you in a shamanic journey? That's the next thing we'll do.
No, I think we're good. And we've got lots of people following along on Facebook.
Oh, great. Okay, great. All right. So I'm going to lead you on a journey, a shamanic journey, and it's essentially, shamanic journey is a bit like a meditation. We're going to use a drum to take us deeper into the meditative experience. It's the way that we travel into these other worlds that we're going into. You will use your imagination. Your imagination is real, so it's okay for you to think you're just imagining it. You are. You're co-creating this experience. with these other worlds and these guides in your other worlds. So the first thing I want to share with you is that in shamanic realms, when we do journeys, there's an upper world, a middle world, and a lower world. The upper world is the world where that's more ethereal. This is where our ancestors who've crossed over live. This is where angels live. Tends to be more pastel and at a higher vibration. And then there's the middle world, the world that we all live in. It looks like this world that we live in, except that you can travel distances just like that. You can go through walls, furniture can talk to you. So when you journey in the middle world, it's that kind of experience. And then the lower world is the world where the earthbound spirits live, elves, fairies. It's richer in nature. It's the colors are more vibrant and jewel-like. And this is where power animals live. And that's where we're going to go. I'm going to take you on a journey to find a power animal. It may not be the one that you're aligned with in this life. We all have one power animal that we're aligned with, who's there to help us with whatever the mission is we have in this life. That eventually you can, if you choose to, connect to and find. They're there with you whether you choose to or not. But right now, we're going to find a power animal. And we're going to ask for a power animal who's there to help us with whatever it is that's going on in our life. We'll make it a pretty general intention for the journey. It's important to have power animals or spirit guides in the journeys that we go on, because we're going into a different world that we don't normally inhabit. So they're like our tour guides and helping us find our way in these realms. So it's important to have those guides when we journey into these places. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the journey, and then we'll go do it. So typically people lay down to do the journeys. You can, if you have something to cover your eyes with, that can help to block out light. You want to make yourself really comfortable. And I'll drum for you for this journey. Well, it'll be a quick one, maybe 5 minutes. Time really changes. It kind of stretches out or compresses when you're doing journeys. So 5 minutes can feel like 20. So don't think it's going to be too short. I hope it won't feel like, it might feel like it's too short, but I hope not. So to get to, let me see if there's anything else. Okay, so the other thing I want you to know is that all animals have a power. A lion is not more powerful than an ant. They just have different power. So I want you to know that. So when you go on your journey, be open to what comes. It's important to let go of expectations and to accept what comes the best you can. Some people, I had a woman attend the Power Retrieval Workshop, and for some reason didn't like the cow that came to her. And the cow was what she needed. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm going to then start drumming, and what you're going to do is go down into the lower world. And you can access the lower world by a hole in the ground that you're familiar with, a hole in a tree trunk that you're familiar with, or when you start going into this journey, you might just get led, and it's great to just let yourself get led. A body of water. If you are more of an urban type person, you can go down an escalator or go into an elevator and hit LW for lower world. I was in New York for many years, and we did this sort of thing in New York. Whatever way you want to get down, and it can be a feeling journey. A lot of people don't journey visually; they journey more with feeling their bodies and feeling the experience. So be open to what works for you. It doesn't matter; it's all the journey. So I'm going to invite you now to go ahead and lie down and get comfortable. If you want to do this, if you don't, that's okay. You can just watch. I don't want to force anyone to do this. The other thing I want to mention is that when I do this work in these journeys, I also cleanse the energy fields with sage smoke, which I already did. And then I call in the spirits of each of the directions, which I already did. So I'm not going to do that part for you, but just know that that was done. So go ahead and lie down. Or if you don't feel comfortable lying down, you can sit, cover your eyes. I'm going to get my clock just so I know how long the journey is. Okay, great. Okay, and now allow your bodies to settle into the surface that you're on. And give your body permission and your mind permission to just surrender back down into the earth. Give everything over into the earth. Allow earth to support you here. And give you permission to let go of any holding physically, mentally, emotionally. As you breathe out, let your body settle even more. And then breathe in a sense of warmth and light and comfort. I've already created a safe, energetic space for everyone that's participating in this journey. I've already asked my guides and spirits of the directions just to give us this web of support. So let yourself feel embraced by that web of support. The drumming of the journey will sound mostly like this. When it's time to come back, you'll hear me stop, and you'll hear this kind of drumming pattern. And then I'll move into a very fast drumming pattern. So when you hear that change of drum, that's when it's time to thank what you saw and then come back the way you went. The journey back is a lot faster. Also, when you're in this journey and you're looking for your power animal or trying to find your power animal, give yourself permission to ask everything you see for help. If you go into the journey and into the lower world and you see nothing, ask nothing. I'm looking for my power animal that's here to help me with my life right now. Can you help me find my power animal? If you see a chair and that's all you see, I'm looking for my power animal to help me with my life right now. Can you help me find it? So you'll continue bringing yourself into the journey, asking what you see, and allowing yourself to be led along the path that they're wanting to take you. It's okay if you get distracted and you start thinking about grocery lists. Everybody does. Just come back to the sound of the drum. That's usually the most helpful thing to do, is just to listen to the sound, come back into your body, and then come back into the journey. It's okay. All right, here we go. And slowly wiggle your fingers and toes. Feel your body back into this place that you're in. Listen to the sounds, feel the air. And when you're ready, come back to the group. So later, you'll want to write down your journey because there's a lot of information that comes in journeys. It's mostly symbolic. So symbolism has many different meanings, and depending on your own experiences, your own belief systems, it can mean a different thing for you than someone else. But also what I'm also trying to say is that these kinds of journeys have so much information that it can take time to meditate on them, wonder what they meant. So it helps to write it down so you don't forget. I'd love to hear someone tell us about your journey. I don't know if you can write that in the chat or how we want to do that, but I love hearing about people's experiences.
I'm a little bit confused by mine right here, Flossie. I never went down. I kept going up. And I felt like I couldn't say really wings, but feathers.
Have you journeyed before, Flossie?
No, no.
That's interesting that there's something for you that you need. It sounds like the way I would interpret that is that there's something that your spirit or being needs from the upper world first before you're able to go down into the lower world. When you went up there, did you see any
I
guides?
think I saw, well, there was like a couple shadows of like, it looked like it was a snake and a frog. So the
Nice.
snake and then the frog. It wasn't the snake after the frog. The snake was first and then the frog.
Oh, nice.
And they were both green.
Interesting. So that's something you can look
But it was
into.
darker when I saw them.
It was darker.
Darker around me when I saw them. But it was
Perhaps you
green. They were green.
perhaps you did go into the lower world at some point. Anyway, I would recommend writing that down and then
Okay.
finding more information. There's, of course, now lots of information online about
Mhm.
what each animal means, and something may really resonate for you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else who would be willing to share?
I'll be happy to share.
Okay.
I've been on a few journeys with you, and each one is so unique. I started out like if I was not necessarily in a river, but a body of water, and I was like stepping on stones, and then all of a sudden it was like the ocean, it was like the water parted, and I was like surfing, but the waves were perfect. So it was just like this sense of flow, and it was like going down, one of those tubes at like a water park, just like going down and going down. And I remember seeing like a little boy and a little girl and a butterfly. And I was like, I'm trying to find my power animal, my spirit animal. I just kept asking that question, but I never was in stillness. I just kept flowing. So that was really interesting.
Does that make sense for you?
Um, there, I could see where it makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
can share if you want.
Okay.
So I kept on asking the question that you had said because immediately I went through the roots of the tree next door, and immediately I had like a almost my size grasshopper face, and I do know what for me it's special, the grasshopper at this given time, because someone passed in my own country, and I was able to do the closure of that in the summer, and I could see this grasshopper. So, but I continued to ask the question because I felt, I had to continue. Like the grasshopper was not telling me I am. So I continued, and then I have seen a camel. I have seen at some point I was flying with like on a bird size. I could see maybe like the face of a dove. Continue traversing, then back down, and I would ask, have you seen my power animal? And so thought of a snake, left. I had for a moment a dragonfly, which is also special for me, related a little bit to the grasshopper, as I had done that closing. And then, but he left. I mean, we looked at each other, and then he left. And then, I asked a snake, an ant, a bug. But in the end, when you make the closure, this dragonfly came back at my level, and we looked at each other again. So I am going to assume that that's the one for this given moment.
I would too. Wow, that's wonderful. Wonderful. And you can always journey back to the dragonfly. You can journey back into this journey that you just did and get more information anytime you want. There are some on YouTube. You can access some of the shamanic drumming so that you can do your own journeys if you want to. Wow, thank you so much. It sounds like you all had very rich, different journeys we all benefit when you share. I know when Shae was talking about her journey, I was feeling that sense of flow and movement, and it was just feeling so good in my own body. To find out more about Power Retrieval Workshops, you can go to my website, monadnockmfr.com, and sign up for the email list, and I'll let you know when those are happening.
I
Some
did put
information.
that in the Facebook group.
Great.
Yeah.
There is some information on my website about the Power Retrieval Workshop too. So wonderful being with everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be here and do this with me and with everyone else. I really enjoyed it. Thank
Yeah.
you, Shae, for putting this together. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for you for being here, and what a great experience. Just a small sample of the amazing work that you're doing. So I hope some people are able to connect with you and take this a little bit further, because it can be so powerful.
Me too. I'd love to see you there. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Have a great day.